What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, January 26th, and this Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? What's up, Jared? It's good to be on. It's good to be going with this show. I'm telling you what, I said it on the Daily Show this morning. Could not be looking forward to a Saturday more. This is the most excited I've been since the Travers. I am pumped. Gulfstream, this card is loaded. It is great. And I think Oaklawn's really, really good too. It's gonna be a big weekend.
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm. Because normally you don't really have the Pegasus. We always say is like that time that break from the Derby for a weekend, and then we go right back into the Derby Trail. Well, this year they've thrown the Southwest into the mix, and not to say the Southwest isn't a good race, but it's not. It's definitely not the Rebel, and it's definitely not the Arkansas Derby, but all of a sudden, here shows up Arabian Night, the long-awaited kind of return back to the track, and then you got the three Brad Coxes, a couple possibly looking legit Brad Cox horses, and so it's a legit Derby prep on top of having the Pegasus going on the same day. So yeah, it's a lot happening.
We may see, a legit Kentucky Derby contender out of the Bob Baffert barn or the Brad Cox barn, and that's kind of a big thing. I think with the last couple of preps that we've had, it's kind of like, yeah, we know that horse is decent or maybe just a little above decent, but we don't really think, hey, that's going to be like a Derby winner. Now we've got that. Like if Arabian Night romps, you can kind of leave that race going, maybe that is a Derby contender. Same with Corona Bold if he was able to do it. So that is exciting. And it's just the secondary event that's happening, and that's really cool that we've got, like I said, this Pegasus, these races we're going to go through. I mean, you could hear them on the Magic Mike show earlier. You're going to hear them tonight. They're loaded. They're like, if you like to handicap horse racing, it doesn't get much better than these three races at the Pegasus.
And I'm with you. I mean, it's definitely the most excited for the year for sure. And like I said, it's one thing at the Southwest, it's just like a bullshit kind of race, but it definitely looks like we have on paper, obviously very legit, possibly, if any of those Brad Cox horses win, they become instant kind of, we're still looking for that Brad Cox horse that's kind of wow us in a big race. And then you throw in Arabian Night in the mix. And if one of them beat him, then it really shows how good they are. And then of course he in himself, it's a huge weekend. And then the Pegasus, don't even forget about the Pegasus. It's gonna be tough, man. I got my youngest, his birthday is today. Happy birthday, Cooper. But his birthday party, Halterman always remembers both my kids' birthdays because they for the racing in him, they coincide with two of the biggest races of the year in the Travers for Cohen and the Pegasus for Cooper. And so but it makes it tricky. This weekend we have Cooper's birthday party, and of course have all this going on. So it's like I'm like in dad mode, but also juggling the big racing event that's happening. It's a lot. It's a big, and then not to mention got the freaking AFC Championship the next day. Thank goodness that's on Saturday because I literally don't know that my mind could take any more. But then you have that going on this weekend. It's a big weekend. Big weekend.
It's huge, yeah. And Samich is going to be down at Gulfstream, and the last time Samich and his dad are actually going to be both there, and the last time they were there was when Cooper was born, and that was that Pegasus that City of Light won in the pouring down rain. It rained all day. We still had a good time, but I do remember his birthday, and then of course Pacific Classic birthday there. So you got two born right on big racing days. It's going to be like I said, this is definitely going to be here for a while. This Pegasus, when it first started, everybody was like, "Yeah, I don't know about the Pegasus. I don't know if it'll last." Here we are. It's year 7. I don't think it's going anywhere. It feels like it's growing in popularity. So, you're going to have to juggle the Pegasus and his birthday for many years to come.
Well, my hope is not my hope. The plan will be is once he's older, they're older, and they are into it, and they'll go with me. We'll just say, "Hey, for your birthday, let's just go. Let's go to the Pegasus." Let's that once they get into it more. But yeah, it was, the joke was, Cohen was born on the week of. It wasn't actually the day of. but the week of the Travers, the year of the Arrogate, just went crazy, and of course, rest is history for him. And then the joke was once Cooper was born on the day of the Pegasus was on the undercard of what I always forget his name. What was that?
Hidden Scroll.
Yeah, Hidden Scroll, and that you're like, oh, here we go, like another free course on the same week of the boy's birthdays. Of course, he didn't pan out too much, but
No.
Samich, yes, found Bowser. How about that? So, and I had to get help. My sister, I hired her to go to some McDonald's in different towns. And we were able to find 2 Bowsers actually. So the boys, and you know what? It's what's any going with the kids, and I'm sure Samich, you know this, but it's like they may have played with it that day, and that's it. I don't know that we've played with it again. You know, it's like it's almost like we got it, and then now we're back to playing with 500 different items that aren't Bowser related. So it's anywhere his birthday's this weekend. So it's like that. And all the new toys, that Bowser will maybe never be seen again after
That's
all
the
that.
thing. You should have wrapped it up for his birthday, and maybe he would have gotten a couple of weeks out of it. But no, it's going to get lost in the shuffle now.
But you know, that's what you do as a parent, right? You gotta just make them like, all right, we found it, check it off the list, and wait for another thing to gripe about. In the upcoming, I had something that I was gonna ask you. I'll let it come to me. I feel like it was an important question, but we'll get to it. Yeah, let's get to the weekend here because yeah, blinkers off after dark. Good evening, Shoddy. It's been a day. We've been working on the guide. We've been, of course, all the different shows. The Magic Mike was a little bit earlier, so we've kind of spaced them apart here, and gonna let everybody, got my whiskey here, and everyone hopefully doing the same. Michael says the guide looks good. Yeah, the guide. That's what I was gonna say. The guide is out now. The Pegasus World Cup wagering guide now available at racingdudes.com. Just go to the products page there. You'll see it. If you are a monthly subscriber, it is free in your dashboard. If you go and buy the guide, don't email us asking where it's at. Go into your dashboard. It's in there. Just download the guide. 19 pages covers the entire card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, of course, including the 3 Pegasus races. I don't want to jinx it, and I know I'm going to, but we are a perfect 6 for 6 in the Pegasus World Cup so far since its inception, 7th annual this year. In terms of the actual Pegasus race, 6 for 6. We've never missed one of these. Picking against some favorites here and there. We've also, of course, won with some favorites as well. But can we keep this going? Can we go 7 for 7, Halsterman? And this might be the biggest pressure yet, because we don't really have, even though Cyberknife is probably a deserving favorite, we don't have a standout this year like we've had in years past that you feel like you can either try to beat or you got to play.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's been another, it kind of feels like a mucho gusto type of year. That year we didn't really have a standout either, but we definitely don't have a gun runner or a life is good or an arrogant. That's for sure. But said we've got a very, very good field, so that's the good news. It'll be a little tougher to hit this one, but as we get closer, I start to feel more and more confident in who I picked. So let's get to it. Let's see who we picked.
Yeah, I mean, let's just quit wasting time. Today's show, we're going to preview the $3 million Pegasus World Cup, the $1 million Pegasus World Cup Turf, and the $500,000 Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf, all at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Then we're going to give picks. We're going to Oaklawn, the $750,000. How about that? They bring it, man. It's like, all these tracks you see, like if a stakes race at this level at this time for a Kentucky Derby prep, it's like 100,000, 150, maybe 200 at best. $750,000 Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn Park. Of course, a 2023 Kentucky Derby prep. Let's go.
If you're visiting Oaklawn Park, make sure to stop by that casino so we can keep funding those purses.
There's a reason why the purses are awesome, because people go in and bet. And the casinos, I mean, look at it. Freaking, they build a monstrosity out there.
There's a slot machine with your name on it. Just go check it out. in between the races.
Do you work for Oaklawn?
No.
I feel like a lot's changed since we started going to Oaklawn.
It's yes. A lot has changed.
It's a wholly. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same place. But funds these purses. I mean, I don't. I want to say, is the Wood Memorial? Is it? It's like 750,000, isn't it now? Or
I think it
maybe
is.
it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that's their highlight. I mean, before you know it, the Arkansas Derby is going to be the worth the same amount as the freaking Pegasus at 3 million.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I think the Southwest was 150 when I first started going, or maybe 250. Could have been 250 actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just, I mean, people want to, bitch about it or whatever. It's just like props to them to, and we'll get to it here in a second. But I do think there's some question marks, and you kind of wonder. It's not really Bob Baffert's MO to bring like one of his heavy duty top shooters into the Southwest. It's normally the Rebel and Arkansas Derby, but you kind of begin to wonder, well, at $750,000, can you afford not to do it? So it adds a little bit of intrigue as we see these purses continue. See the comments are popping off here, all asking questions about, of course, the Pegasus. So we'll just jump right into this thing, and we'll go through all three of the Pegasus, and then we'll go to Oaklawn for the Southwest. Gulfstream Park on Saturday, the highlight race, of course. Race 13, the Pegasus World Cup. Grade 1, $3 million, 4-year-olds and up, going 1 1/8 miles. Field of 12 lines up here, led by your favorite at 5-2, number 10, Cyberknife, making his last career start before heading off to stud. He's had a hell of a year, I guess, last year as a 3-year-old. Of course, winning that said Arkansas Derby we mentioned earlier, just kind of was steady all year long. Even the races he lost, he ran really, really well. Really didn't have many stinkers at all year long. And he looks to kind of round out his career and win a race like this for Brad Cox. But, it's not going to be easy because he's got even though he does seem like a clear horse to pick here, but Proxy in here at 9-2. You've got 5-1 on Skippy Longstocking. You got Baffert bringing in Defunded at 6-1, who's very interesting from a pace standpoint. And White Barrio, who, at 10-1, I get it, but this horse, you want to talk about a horse for course. It's this horse. White Barrio loves Gulfstream Park. Halterman, let's talk first Cyberknife. It definitely seems like it's his race to lose.
Yeah, he's a deserving favorite without any doubt. And I just feel like when it comes to Cyberknife, the one thing you can count on with him since the Kentucky Derby anyway, he shows up, right? And he's been in better races more consistently than anybody else in this race. And so I think it starts and runs through him. I think the post position for Cyberknife is going to be a little bit of a problem. But, the one thing I like about it, I don't particularly have a lot of confidence in his jockey, but this horse has kind of done a little bit of everything during his career, hasn't he? Like, he set the pace, he's come from way out of it, he's stalked. That versatility will help him with this outside post. So that's not to say he's not going to get hung wide, and that could definitely happen, but he's versatile enough. I think he'll do what Flo asks him to do. Now, what they ask him to do is still in question. I get it, but his versatility makes me feel a little bit better about that outside post to the 10 hole. The other thing that makes me feel good about him is he kind of beat most of these horses already, hasn't he? And he's kind of proven he's better than most of them on the racetrack already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that, Skippy definitely didn't show up that day in the Pennsylvania Derby, but neither did Cyberknife, frankly. So you that one was kind of a wash, and you still kind of wonder what those two kind of matching up, maybe in a similar race like this, that maybe they can not have a lot of excuses. But I agree. I mean, in terms of kind of the head-to-head, or especially a certain body of work, I mean, Cyberknife has done very little wrong. I mean, really, the only time, like I said in the opening, the only time he never showed up was the Kentucky Derby, and I think we can all agree that we can just kind of toss that race in a general sense, because there's been a lot of horses that have ran in that race that didn't show up that day that have come back to run well. Taba being one of those, and of course horses that ran really well that day that didn't after that. So I think you can just kind of throw that away. But yeah, Cyberknife I think is I don't know if is it the dirt mile, the hanging job, or is it the lack of wins in those last,
Wait,
'cause,
wait,
you
wait,
look back, even though he won the Haskell, I mean, shit, Taba should have
wait,
won
wait. Did you just call his dirt mile a hang job?
that dirt mile. He hung. He
Oh
hung.
my God. That is a wild statement. I mean, beyond
How,
wild. Wow.
how did he not hold on? Cody's wish, he hung.
Jesus Christ. He came back and re rallied twice to take the lead and got nosed out at the wire. I mean, to Cody's wish. Holy shit. That's a wild statement. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know if there's any better definition than a horse that had the lead at the top of the stretch and battled and couldn't quite get. I mean, I agree, he fought, but you got to win that race if you're not going to hang there. So there's a horse that probably should have lost the Haskell. Taba, of course, that was his first race back, but he won. But I don't know if it's like he didn't win the Travers, he didn't win the Pennsylvania Derby, he didn't win the Breeders' Cup. So it's hard for me to kind of have the confidence and say, well, now he's going to win this mile and eighth race. It's obviously the biggest race. I at the time, I don't know if it changed. I feel like at the Breeders' Cup, when he went in the Breeders' Cup, wasn't the thought that was going to be his last race?
I don't know if it was ever really confirmed. It was kind of the speculation that was going to be his last race. Um, he has lost some tough ones, right? But I guess my rebuttal is let's go post Kentucky Derby. He wins the bat win. That's not much of a field. He beat Taba in the Haskell. I think Taba's the favorite in this race without any doubt if he's here. He got second in the Travers, defeated by Epicenter. Epicenter's the favorite in this race without any doubt. He did get beat again by Taba turned the tables in the Pennsylvania Derby. Again, Taba's the favorite if he's in this race. I think Cody's Wish is probably the favorite if he's in this race. So I think the horses he's lost to are better than what he is going to see here. And that's kind of my main thing. I'm not like, wow, Cyberknife is fantastic. He just seems to be a little bit better than what this field brings, which means a couple of things. The post is going to have to hurt him, or we're going to have a couple of horses that are maybe getting a little bit better, or we kind of got the one unknown. And I think Baffert Horse Defunded is kind of that one unknown horse because he hasn't really faced any of these horses before.
Yeah, we can we'll use that as a transition. We'll stop talking about the hanger Cyberknife and we'll move over to the 5 Defunded. Defunded is a horse that is all or nothing. He's been a horse that, you and I picked him. When was that? Was that I think it was the Pat Day Mile. Where we really liked him that day, and it was just a horrific trip. But he still, from then on, it was kind of like you got a really good performance out of him, or it wasn't just, he kind of was just, it was a little lackluster. And the one danger here is loose on the lead. He clearly is the speed of the race. Bob Baffert ships him in. Irad Ortiz gets the mount. I don't know that there's a lot of question marks in terms of what the plan might be with a horse like Defunded. It's just a matter of, is he good enough to actually, I guess you could use the same argument with the argument for Cyberknife. Well, none of these horses are like world beaters either. So couldn't Defunded just get on the lead and not want to get past?
1,000%. I think he's very dangerous in here. I think you got to play him in the multi races. I'm kind of with you. Like, it's almost like play him in the multis, but if you're like, don't key him in second in an exacta, because I think he goes gate to wire, or he gets like third or fourth, or I don't quite think he's all or nothing, but I think if he loses, he might end up fading. But the thing about him is he just hasn't matched up with anybody that you're like, okay, it's a common opponent to who is in this race here, right? He's won 2 races in a row pretty impressively at Santa Anita and Del Mar. I mean, those fields weren't great. Azul Coast and Newgrange chasing him home last time out. Country Grammar, who was really not good in that Awesome Again, Slow Down Andy, horses like that. But look, he's going to go right to the front. I don't think there's any doubt. I think he's the fastest horse in the race. I think there's some other horses that are kind of going to give him a little bit of company, but I don't think there's anybody quite as fast as him. He's my biggest worry. I mean, I think he can take him gate to wire. I don't know what kind of price you're going to get on him. If you can get 6-1, that's definitely good enough to play him.
So isn't the horse that you'd be most worried about, I guess, pushing him too much if you do like to fund it? Is the horse right to his outside, number 6, Art Collector?
Yeah, I think. Look, Art Collector, his only chance is to kind of send. I don't really think he's going to stock the pace and win. He's going to have to get out there with him. He should get out there with him. I don't trust Art Collector. I'm not quite sure he's as fast as Defunded. The other one would be Riding with Biden, the 3 horse, and that's another one. Do you trust him, right? So those horses really need to get up there and do the job to kind of set it up. If you like, a Skippy or a White Abario or a Cyberknife, because those are kind of the ones that you're going to be thinking, okay, they're going to be sitting right there in that next flight of horses. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to send even like a Stiletto Boy from the outside post. Maybe they try to send him a little bit. Of course, got 3rd in this race last year. Didn't send with Life is Good, obviously, but sat kind of in that second group. So those are the 3, the 6, the 11. They're going to have to push Defunded. If they don't, Defunded's going to be tough to catch on this track.
Well, my biggest thing was, we've only seen 6 runnings, obviously, of this, but the last 2, it was wire to wire, but those were serious speed horses, and Nick's Go and Life is Good. I mean, there was no question about what the tactic was, and no question about who was the fastest in the race, and and how the class, and etc. But previously in other years of the race, even though they've been close, every horse that wins this thing is a more of a stalk and pounce, a little bit there, and then they go. And I just don't know that Defunded is like that Baffert type of speed colt that we're like worried about going gate to wire. Now, I think given that it is Bob Baffert, that's what makes you worried that he could come in. It's like you don't hear a lot about Defunded. It's not like he's been this world class horse and he brings him in. I'm not going to be surprised if he wins, but I am going to try to be. I'm playing him in my in the exotics or in my multis, just for that safety factor. But in the actual race, how I'm betting it, I'm going to try to beat him.
Yeah, he is. That's the thing. Like you don't hear a lot about him. He could have went to the Breeders' Cup. Like he won a Breeders' Cup win and you're in. He didn't go. I don't know. It's a situation where this is the right field for him. Like there's not any real great horses in here, but there are a couple of red flags with him, but there are a couple of green flags. We're shipping all the way over here. Why are we doing that? We're getting Irad Ortiz. That's a good sign. And, of course, the Baffert thing. So I went back and forth with him. There was a time I had Defunded on top in this race. I ended up, moving him down just a bit, but I can't talk you off Defunded if you're going to play him. I mean, he makes a lot of sense.
I'd be very surprised. Let's put it this way. If top the stretch, we're not sitting there thinking, okay, here, let's see if he can hold on, and see who's coming. Talking about horses coming into their own, Nick, Defunded has definitely winning the last 2 races, and kind of seemingly getting a little bit more consistent, a little more tactical. That showed a little bit more tactical, being tactical in that Native Diver. But you look at a horse like number 1 Proxy, who's going to be bet in this race, kind of has been notoriously known as a horse that runs well. He's kind of the, likes to run well, but not quite finish the job kind of horse. But the last 2 efforts have been quite impressive. Lost in the Stephen Foster, but ran a big number that day to Olympiad and American Revolution. Of course, Olympiad ran very well later in the year. Had a great year, but also, of course, ran well in the Breeders' Cup. All things considered, not if you don't compare it to Flightline. And then won the Clark and looked really good in the Clark. And so it's like maybe he's coming into his own a little.
I'm not buying him. I'm just not buying him. Could he hit the board? I think that's a yes. I didn't play him though. I can't do it. Gonna come from off of it, and I think again, he's going to be pace dependent. They're going to have to help him up front a little bit, which they could do it, but I just couldn't buy him. He's been way too, inconsistent for me. Sure, he did win the Clark. He won it by 3/4 of a length. These horses in that race, they just left a lot to be desired. And now, here we are. Like Stephen Foster, yeah, he kind of did what he always did. He got beat 5 lengths. He got beat by Dynamic One. He's gotten beat by Scalding. I just don't think he's quite good enough, and that's where I kind of fell for him. If he wins, I'm gonna lose.
I think Nick has got it right. Proxy underneath. If you're going to use him, let that horse beat. In my opinion, let that horse beat you. If he wins this thing, if this horse can't win these races, pretty much notoriously all year in his career, and he comes and wins the Pegasus, then it's just like, well, good for him. I'm not going to get there with him. All right, let's talk about 2 horses that are very much horse for courses, but have not been good since said courses, since leaving Gulfstream Park, and that Simplification and White Abarrio. Those are 2 horses that on that circuit last year, of course, in the Holy Bull, the Fountain of Youth, and the Florida Derby, those horses really traded punches and ran really well. All those 3 prep races, of course, White Abarrio, I guess maybe has done a little bit more overall, winning that big, of course, if you win the Florida Derby, but we haven't seen anything. I mean, Ohio Derby was second, 3rd in the Cigar Mile. I guess that's something. But him is he's been a little bit better. Simplification has just not been good at all, frankly, since then. So do you trust, can they get, are these dangers at all? Because we are back at Gulfstream Park, especially White Abarrio, who definitely loves this track.
Okay, let's start with White Abarrio. Does he like Gulfstream, or does he like the competition he's faced at Gulfstream? That's the hang up with him, right? I agree he's dangerous here. I've got him in the top 4, but he's 4th because I don't know if it's a situation, he's home and it's going to all work out, or if it was just like, yeah, well, he ran really well at Gulfstream when he was beating Simplification. Now he did beat Mo Donegal, but he beat him at 1.16 miles, short stretch. We talked about that a lot at the Holy Bull last year. It was just not the right race for Mo Donegal. He got better. He did beat Charge It, but Charge It, it was like his first stakes race, and there was a lot.
And he was an idiot against
Charge It that day. I would have liked to have seen him run a little bit better in some of his other spots. I do think he's rounding back into form. I do think one red flag is Irad is not riding this horse. He rode him last time in Cigar Mile. He did very well on him, almost got the job done. He's jumping on Defunded. I thought that was a little bit of a negative, but he's working well. I get it. He's another one. I don't really want to talk you off, White Abarrio, if you've got him picked. I just saw a couple of red flags that I didn't like.
T-Gaff is back. Of course, he rode him in the Derby. Of course, rode him in the Florida Derby and the Holy Bull. Those wins as well. It's just, you look at the horses he beat, like you kind of mentioned. Tawny Port beat him in the Ohio Derby. Of course, he got smoked in the Haskell by Cyberknife, Tava, Jack Christopher, all those. Got smoked in the Pennsylvania Derby, and again, couldn't win the Cigar Mile. And no offense to Get Her Number in My Control, but it's like, I'm with you. I do think the horse is coming a little bit back, into his own. He was really bad there, in the summer there after kind of running well at Gulfstream. But maybe that's good. The key, the perfect part he needs, to kind of round into form and come back home. I think he's gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it interesting, but him winning, I'm definitely going to try to beat, and not even try to beat. I just think he will get beat.
There's a lot worse 10-to-1 shots you can play. I'll say that. Like, he makes sense at a number, and so that's why I'm not going to talk anybody off of him. And I'll have him used underneath and stuff for sure. The other Saffy horse, the Skippy Longstocking, the 7 that you were talking about. This one seems to be getting better with every race. This one, you remember him as the 3-year-old. God, he ran tough, in the Belmont, and he won the West Virginia Derby. Now he no-showed the Pennsylvania Derby, no doubt. he bounced back Harlan's Holiday to end his season on New Year's Eve. He ran extremely well. So he might be the one rounding into form the best. And look, another one though, Irad was on and he jumps to defunded. So it's not the greatest sign in the world, but Skippy Longstocking is a dangerous horse here. I think he's getting better. I tend to like him a little bit better than the other Saffy runner.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about him, but for some reason, and I mean, I guess for good reason, but that Belmont has stuck with me ever since that Belmont because I just thought he did so much of the heavy lifting that day, and really, I don't want to say saved the day, but he just really did all he could to kind of set that race up perfectly for Mo Donegal and Nested, and then continued to hold on and get third in that day. And of course, you said we bounced back, won the West Virginia Derby. In that last race, the Harlan's Holiday, I mean, he looked. That's what did it for me. He looked super impressive. Now I get it. Irad jumps off. You get Jose. I think that's a nice sign. Who, when Safi and him team up, they do quite well. Been working well. I'm with you. I think this race, the way I see this race unfolding, is defunded in maybe the likes of one or two others. We'll see, but defunded being the most real speed. Go out there, and you have Skippy Longstocking, and you've got Cyberknife, who definitely like to do that kind of stalking press and stalk trip. I think they're going to sit, they're both outside of that speed. They're going to sit nice trips. They're both going to make a run coming for home. And I'm banking on the fact that Skippy maybe had a little bit softer schedule, and maybe he is rounding into form. And maybe not even rounding into form, coming into it, maybe into better than he's ever been. So Skippy Longstocking at 5-1, I think is going to be my top pick of the race.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I think it's a pretty good pick. I singled him today in the Harlan's Holiday when he ran. I really liked him in that spot. And oddly enough, his stablemate took all the money, which is O'Connor, the 10 horse who's in this race, who I didn't like that day, and I don't like this day either. But you know, I feel like earlier, like as a 3-year-old in those middle races, like West Virginia Derby, that's him, right? He couldn't step up to this kind of level. It seems like he's ready to do it now. But if you want to transition to top picks, if you're going Skippy, I got to go the horse that has proven he could do it. I just think Cyberknife is just a bit better than the field. I am not thrilled with his post, but I think he's going to work out a trip. So I took Cyberknife. I think he's the class of the field.
Don't you kind of agree that the way we're going to, the way it's going to unfold, that, we're going to, you're going to have Cyberknife, I have Skippy, but they turn for home, and there's defunded kind of, towards the inside of the, near the rail, or making his case there, making his run. And here comes the 10 and here comes the 7, and they're both right there. And it's just a matter of who can finish. And see if either one of them can get by defunded. But I definitely feel like both of those horses will kind of sit the trip. Both have shown to possess, fast enough early speed to keep them in the race. And, one thing about Skippy is that I look, it's like when Saffy's got him, when this horse has ran really nice races, he tends to back that up again, once again. Now, again, the Pennsylvania Derby, that was, that was the outlier. He also had a little bit of a break after that race, got him freshened up a little bit. So I think we're going to see another good performance out of him, and hopefully it's good enough to win. So I don't blame you for picking Cyberknife. I think for me, I couldn't. What do you think he's going to be? Do you think he's? 8-5, 2-1, somewhere in there?
Well, it's hard to tell. I think yes, probably 8-5, 9-5 would be the number. And I get that, hey, that's not a flashy number, but I just think he's a little bit better. And I think your kind of scenario is probably how it's going to go. I also look at Cyberknife from this 10 hole. He can outbreak the 2 horses to his inside. So that kind of puts him in the 8 path. A couple horses are going to clear him. He really shouldn't be any more than about 3 wide on that first turn. He really shouldn't. So that's the key. If he's 3 wide on the first turn, sitting, let's say 2-3 lengths behind, I think he gets the job done, and I don't think it'll be too difficult for him, honestly. I think he gets in trouble if he misses the break and he's hung wide or he's too shuffled too far back. I think if he's sitting in that catbird seat, I think they will have trouble holding him off in the stretch.
I will say this. I mean, I don't know, it makes sense. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't run, Cyberknife doesn't run extremely well. And even if he loses, he'll run well. I mean, it's his last race. He's ran well really his whole career. Brad Cox has just loves the way this horse looks right now, and he's going to be, he's going to be geared up. So it's just a matter of, I mean, so if Skippy, it's like, I think he'll run well. I think he's going to run really well, but
Yeah.
he also could not, right? Because he doesn't have that class that Cyberknife has demonstrated all year long. So if you want more of a confidence, like, hey, I think he's going to run his race, just a matter if he's good enough, it's probably Cyberknife. I want to bring up a horse because I've seen it pop up a lot in the chat here. And given his price, I guess we at least need to mention him. Number 8, Get Her Number. A lot of people have been talking about this horse here in the chat tonight. Last out, got second to Mind Control in that Cigar Mile. Saez rode him that day, and Saez stays put for Peter Miller. Can you make a case for him, or do you think this is just, I mean, I guess his numbers, he's shown that he's ran okay numbers in the past, but this would be a huge step up for him to win here, I think.
I think he's another one I'm not going to talk anybody off. Now, listen, if you're giving me Last Samurai, I'll talk you off, right? But if you're giving me Get Her Number, it makes sense. Ran pretty well last time out. Just couldn't quite get there, but still ran a very respectable race without any question. And then 2 races back, Get Her Number beat Ginobili. Ginobili came back and ran very, very well and won the 5th season at Oaklawn Park. So that's a good sign as well. I have trouble. I don't know about the distance for this horse. I don't know if this horse is really a 1 1/8 type. And that's kind of where my pause is with Get Her Number. But I wouldn't talk you off. You're going to get the right price. You got a great trainer. You got a great jockey. And it's a race where, say, a Cyberknife and a Skippy kind of have weird trips. It's really wide open, really, really fast. And Get Her Number is one that makes sense. I personally did not play Get Her Number. I don't hate it though.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's hard to get there with the horse. Like, to think that this horse is going to be able to stretch out. Only tried this distance once and it was no good. And just to not only to stretch out, but have to run down a few horses and outrun horses like Cyberknife and Skippy and whoever White Abario, whoever it is you might like. It just seems there's a lot of factors there that's going to have to happen in order for Get Her Number to win. But so that's why I played against as well. But all right, top pick of the Pegasus World Cup. I've got Skippy Longstocking, and you've got
Cyberknife.
All right, let's go 2 races prior. Let's just go to the race prior, and we'll just work our way that way. The race 12, the race prior to the Pegasus World Cup. The Pegasus World Cup Turf. It's a grade $1 million for 4-year-olds and up, going 1 1/8 on the turf. Field of 12 lines up here, Halterman, and it's not the who's of turf horses showing up here, but it's a competitive. I mean, first of all, I think it needs to be said, and I'll let you mention it as well, because you brought it to my attention when you looked at the card before I did. It's an incredibly difficult card, top to bottom, and even the Pegasus, as you can tell from us talking about it. The stakes, the non-stakes, the whole card is so tough. Don't be afraid to take shots. They're very evenly matched, seemingly in every race. And that's why you're seeing these odds just kind of nothing too crazy as far as low odds. And it seems like every race is very wide open. So you look at a race like this, and Ivar is your 5-2 favorite, and maybe deservingly so, but really, is he deservingly so a favorite of this race? So it's just kind of, it's that kind of day. 4-1 on City Man, 6-1 on Lady Spike Spear, 8-1 on Wit. Can Todd Pletcher win this race for, what is that, 3rd year, right? 3rd year in a row. Won it with Carolina on the last 2. How do you make sense of this card in this race?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those days, and you could see like from the last race, there were 6 or 7 or 8 different horses brought up in our chat, and it's like, yeah, I get it, because you can make an angle and case for a lot of them because they look a lot alike, and this is the same thing. I mean, we're talking about it for 2 minutes, and we got like 7 different horses in the chat again, and it's not a situation where any of us considering go, that's dumb, that's stupid, don't do that. It's like, yeah, there's cases to be made. Look, I love City Man in this spot. I just think City Man is coming into this race fantastic. I thought his race last time out in the local prep for this, Fort Lauderdale, was really, really good. I thought Rosario gave him a pretty shitty ride, honestly, had him covered up for a lot of the race. When that horse got free, it was over, and he could have dominated and won by a lot more than he did. He's another one. The trip is kind of going to be tricky here. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. It's a longer run into the first turn on the turf, going a mile and an eighth, so that's a good thing. But he's going to have to work out a trip. I get it. I just really like City Man in this spot. Winner of 3 in a row. There's not any real world beaters in here. I like his tactical speed a lot. And, a horse like Ivar, I just don't trust him to win. I think he's going to show up and run great. I don't trust him to win, though. And then I almost put number 6, Lady Spide Spear, on top. I really like her as well. But in the end, I think City Man is the one to beat here. I really like how he's coming into this race.
Well, I think you have to. It might you just like I said, like Ivar probably seems classy, maybe deserves to be the favorite, but I think at 5-2 you have to play against Ivar. Ivar's won 1 race since that Shadwell Turf back in 2020, and that was a listed stakes race in Indiana.
Yeah.
Now, to his credit, like you mentioned, he runs great every time. I mean, really, he
does.
he got third, ran a good third in the Breeders' Cup Mile last year. The Woodbine Mile he got second, the Turf Mile he got second. He ran a good fourth. Was second barely by second in the Breeders' Cup Mile this past year. Like, he runs every time, and that's why, to your point, like I think you have to use him underneath and key him everywhere but on top, because him kind of showing up here, and I think it's in his price. If he's 10-1, I think he's a lot more appealing, even though I might get suckered into him. Let's just put it that way at that price. But at 5-2, I think it's all the reason to try to beat him. And so, yeah, I think City Man here winning the last 3 races, 4 of his last 5. It seems like this horse is just gearing up on all cylinders coming into this race, been working unbelievable well, and came to Gulfstream Park last time out in December in the Fort Lauderdale and really looked impressive. Got that Gulfstream Park turf experience there. Likes his distance, 6 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. I think he's going to be really tough to beat. The post position, to your point, is tricky, but he does have enough speed early in these races where I think Rosario can get him in position.
Yeah, he can be tactical. There's no doubt. He can also, if he has to, he can come from out of it. We don't want to get too far behind, and that's the worry. If he doesn't break well or anything, does Rosario take him way too damn far back? I mean, I could see that happening. But end of the day, I think he's the one that's going to get a pretty good stocking trip. I think there's enough speed that as long as he kind of keeps those front runners in range, he can go get them. So, another horse that I think is interesting is the number 3, Atone. He can set the pace here, right? He could take him gate to wire. He did it last time out in an allowance race. But my problem with Atone, he tends to lose these kind of races in heartbreaking fashion.
As my good friend Mike Somich understands, I think maybe I'm a little worse with him, but I'm a sucker for Atone. I know he likes him too. I picked him last year in this race. I think he was like 10-1 that year. He's 12-1 this year on the morning line. But and honestly, at top of the stretch, I was like, here we go. He's running his race. He ran really well. He just kind of hung and got 4th. It wasn't a terrible effort, but definitely didn't come close to winning. 4th in the Maker's Mile. He runs in grade 1s. He runs in grade 2s. He runs kind of similar to what we talked about with Ivar, but Atone is a horse to me that looks like that last race with Maker. He just seems like a horse that's just dying to win one of these. And I don't know if we're going to miss it or if he ever is going to get it done, but he definitely is dangerous in a race like this, being that I know he possesses quite a bit of early speed. But I have similar belief like I do with Ivar, that I think he's going to run well. I just don't think he's good enough to win.
Yeah, I mean, the scary thing with Ivar, somebody said, hey, this is a grade one in name only. Well, one horse that is a legit grade one horse is Ivar. Like, he has hit the board, been close in a lot of grade ones. So that's kind of the, hey, yeah, he can't win these kind of races, but is it that kind of race? Is this kind of like that listed stakes at Indiana? I mean, this is better than that, but kind of might hit him between the eyes. And so that's the scary thing about him. But I'm with you. I did not want to play Ivar to win at a short price.
How about a potential another grade one caliber type horse, but on the filly side? And that's number 6, Lady Spike Spear, 6-1 morning line. You know, last time out, did finish third, a nice third in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf at Keeneland. You know, and had ran in a one. I think the Jenny Wiley was a grade one that year. Finished third. Of course, got smoked by Regal Glory, but you know, a horse that wins grade threes, wins grade twos, ran well in the Breeders' Cup, is going to be somewhat early positioned in front of close to the lead here. You know, I think is dangerous in this spot, especially at that price. Luis Saez stays aboard. What do you think of this one?
I wish we would have seen her run that type of race before the Breeders' Cup as well at some point, right? I have no argument. She ran fantastic in that race. And if she runs that race again today or on Saturday, probably going to be your winner. But show me the other race that she's done something like that. That's where my problem lies. I'm playing the horse in the pick fours, pick fives, pick sixes. I could not put her on top. She's another one, though, guys, I had on top for a while and ended up changing it. I think she's going to be tough.
I mean, yeah, I thought she ran a hell of a race in the Breeders' Cup. Kind of like Michael's saying, like chased an Italian who ran great. Definitely gets the break there as well in the weight being the filly. But yeah, I mean, to me, I do think she's capable of winning the race. She's one of the few in here that I think can actually win versus only Keen underneath. So I do think if she runs to that race last time, she can win. Let's just put it that way.
Oh,
and that makes her usable, because you can't, if you think it's possible and you've seen it in that last race, I guess you could argue that she can do it again.
I think she will win if she runs that race. I'll go that far. But
probably,
again,
yeah.
Huge jump she made that race. And she was 32-1 that day. I mean, she didn't win, but could that be the wedding? She ran a winning race, and now could this be the funeral? That's my worry on her. But again, couldn't talk anybody off of that horse. I think she's pretty darn good.
I know a horse you and we talked a lot about, of course, make sure you guys go get that wagering guide at racingdudes.com. Halter and I were working on the bankroll, live bankroll, so you can see exactly what picks we're playing. Literally, we're playing the live bankroll. Follow along with us, play the bets we like. And we talked a lot about Wit here. And, I kind of like, dude, what do you think of Wit? Like, I couldn't decide how, is one of those horses that, like I mentioned, Todd Pletcher has won this race the last couple of years, tries to do it again here. I read some stuff today. Like, he likes this horse. And obviously, since switching to turf, it definitely seems like Wit has turned it around, so to speak. It was obviously very sought after as a 2-year-old on the dirt. Things didn't pan out, was injured, didn't come back till later. And then, has ran well on the turf, including, nearly winning at Keeneland in a grade 3, ran nearly won in the Hollywood Derby at grade 1 to lost to Speaking Scout. But, Wit is a horse that on paper you want to think, man, if this thing collapses, Wit is going to be flying late. We know that late kick. Do you trust Wit at all here?
I don't. In the end, with Wit and Speaking Scout, both, they're the 1-3 finishers out of that Hollywood Derby. I like them as horses for sure. I kind of like, okay, you're facing older horses now. You're going to have to jump up. I need them to prove it to me before I back them in a race like this. I don't think they're quite as good as some of these top end horses that we have in here. Um, I think the jump is going to be a little bit too much. I think they're a little too far out. Again, they're two horses. They do make sense if you have them, you want to play them. Those two are not for me, though.
All right, final picks here for the Pegasus Turf. I think you and I can agree we're going all the way to the outside. Number 12, City Man, and in a card that's tough. And I'm by no means saying this horse is a lock, but in a very very tough card, I believe he's one of the horses I can depend on the most to win. And it's a low standard because it's such a tough card, but you know what I mean.
It's a situation where it feels like you can trust he's going to run well. If that's good enough or not, that's where the debate starts to come in. Obviously, he's very consistent. He's going to turn for home. He's going to give you a chance. Let's just hope he gets it done.
Yeah, and you could look back and say, well, the post position got him or whatever it is, but it definitely has a feeling that he's going to run his race, and I think if he does, he'll be awfully tough to beat. All right, let's go to race 11, the race prior to Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf, worth 500K. It's a grade 3. Fillies and Mares, 4-year-olds and up, 1 mile and 1/16 on the turf. Of course, this was introduced last year to the Pegasus wagering in the Pegasus card. Delika Halterman at 5-2, and 9-5 on Chanticera and 9-2 on Queen Goddess. And, it's in 5-1 on Wakanaka. You do have to me, the 9-5 on Chanticera is, I'm not saying she's not a good horse. It's because it's who it is. Chad Brown, it's Irad Ortiz. It's the connections, and in a field that's not overly tough on paper anyways. But Chanticera at 9-5, to me, that was tough to swallow.
It's kind of where I landed on it as well. I have respect for, not going to be shocked if Chanticera wins this race, but I thought this horse was a little short. I didn't want to play 9-5 on Chanticera. I went with number 3, Wakanaka. And, the last time they matched up, Wakanaka won and Chanticera was 5th. And we were right there at the Breeders' Cup. That was the race after the Classic. And I didn't really see too much of an excuse. I don't know. I kind of just felt like Wakanaka was a little bit better that day. So I took Wakanaka right back here. I like the price. I didn't really like Delika that much. Chanticera I like, but not enough to play at 9-5. So I think Wakanaka is an interesting horse here. Oddly enough, her worst race ever in the United States came in this race last year, but it was her first race, like I said, in this country. She matched up against Regal Glory, and she got 6th, beaten 5 lengths. Just could not get the job done there. Boy, after that, let's look at this. Got beat to In Italian, but was close to her in the next start. Lost to Speak of the Devil, who ran an unbelievable race at Churchill that day, and In Italian again. Then lost to Regal Glory. Then won, then tried boys in the Woodbine Mile, got beat to Modern Games,
Yeah, Ivar.
And the Ivar, yeah, and then won. So scratch out when she tried boys, scratch out her first race in the United States. She's either won or got beat by horses. It would probably be 3-5 in this spot. So I think 5-1's more than fair on Wakanaka. I'll give her a shot here.
First of all, I think it's funny because I had to. You couldn't even, I don't think you could see this race after because of the flame, the smoke from the flames that Flightline left on the track were still looming.
Yeah,
you barely even see this race. I had to go back and watch this race when I was handicapping because I was like, I don't even remember this. I was there. I do remember. I remember it being ran, but it was just like our minds were everywhere but at that point after Flightline. But yeah, to your point, I think when you look at the price, it's 5-1 versus 9-5. I definitely like Wakanaka more so than Chanticera. She's tough because Chanticera, that is, because you going into that race you mentioned with Wakanaka winning that day at Keeneland. This horse was really, this horse was the favorite that day. It was really coming into her own. It felt like, won, at Keeneland, just dusted them and then came back in the Jenny Wiley and got beat by Regal Glory, who obviously is a great horse. who came back to win, of course. And then, so it's like lots to like. And then that race was just a stinker. It was not good. It wasn't great. And you kind of wonder what that was. If she can come back and run at what she was running going into that race, I agree. I mean, she will be incredibly dangerous. She's got very kind of a tactical ability about her, and I think but it just at that in a race like this, I couldn't justify trying to pound her at 9-5, and I think she'll be every bit of that. And I know this is one that you didn't necessarily agree with me whenever we were making our picks earlier today, and I went with number 6, Queen Goddess, and Michael McCarthy brings this horse in from out west, and Saez gets them out here. Coming in, winning 2 of her last 3 out, of course, at Santa Anita. Last time out, I thought was pretty impressive here, going gate to wire. She's shown that she can win off of it. She's shown that she can go wire to wire. I think for me, it's more of a, is she good enough? She's obviously kind of been whipping up on them out there, but can she handle a race like this? That'll be the question. I hope I mean, I'm not going to play her much lower than 9-2, to be honest, but I do think I don't necessarily agree or understand why there's not a lot of love for her.
I think with me, I'll just speak for myself. With her, I just don't play California turf horses when they ship east. That's what it is more than anything else. It's just a hang up. I mean, a lot of us have it. It's not just me. I mean, you've said that too before. But I think when we were talking earlier, you made the point of, look, getting Saez aboard is a really good sign, and it is. And you just send her and hope she can take him gate to wire. There are days where this turf course, the speed really holds, and if it does, you got a little bit of a shot here with Queen Goddess. I don't hate it, but end of the day, I see that Santa Anita. It's like, yeah, you're not usually coming to Gulfstream and winning races like this.
Yeah, and I definitely get it. It's just, it's not like it's the toughest race, and so I read some things about her. They definitely think she's live, but it almost seemed like we think she's pretty good. We're just gonna see. I could see her being tough, and I could also see her. You could be like, she just wasn't quite good enough. I think she's gonna give it a run. She likes this distance: 3 starts, 2 wins. 1/3 at this distance. She hasn't obviously tried Gulfstream Park, but McCarthy is we know McCarthy, when he sends horses over for this Pegasus car, they tend to run pretty well. Of course, we've known that from years past. I've seen some comments on Justify My Love. Thoughts on Justify My Love for Lobo and Castellano?
Yeah, I mean, gonna beat me if she wins. We're jumping up. It took a couple of times to get her right. She did run a pretty good race last time out. This it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't think she's quite good enough in this spot. I think this is a horse that keep an eye out for. I don't know if this is a good spot for her.
And I think it's worth talking about, because I've seen some comments on her as well, and obviously she's 5-2. Number 2, Delika, the old 7-year-old, is still going. 31 starts in her career, 1.4 million, 10 wins in those 31 starts in 7 seconds. She's still going, man. Winning last time out in the Cardinal at Churchill Downs. She actually has won 3 of her last 4 races, including at Kentucky Downs as well. She was also in that race that day at Keeneland. Did not run. She ran worse than Sarah. So Delika, 5-2. That one to me seemed way too low to play her here.
Yeah, I don't like her class. Yes, she won the Grade 1 Beverly D. I think somebody mentioned it. That was kind of over the dirt almost. That was when Churchill had that awful turf course they tried to run that day, and there was nobody that came. Anytime she's faced, a little bit better competition, she hasn't ran very well. I just think there's classier horses in here. I don't like her at all at 5-2. It is one end of the day. If she beats you, you look back and you go, God, that's stupid. She'd won 3 out of 4, kind of against, similar as far as the graded company's concerned. And I'm an idiot, but I guess that's what I'll have to be if she wins. I did not have her on a ticket.
All right. I need some intervention maybe, and maybe someone to give me just one positive sign, just positive note to say about her. I wouldn't say I almost picked her to win, but I definitely thought about it and looked at her quite extensively, and I will be using her underneath. And that's number 4, Sweet Enough. This will be a horse I'll be using in any kind of tournaments if I'm playing those. Just I don't know. It's something about her. This horse is obviously came from overseas, was running well overseas on the turf, switched here to the outfield barn, ran really poorly in the first start on the turf. Then he tried her on synthetic at Woodbine. That didn't go well. Then back to turf last time out at Gulfstream Park and ran really well, I thought. Pretty impressive there, came from out of it. If this thing goes crazy and maybe there's some horses come running late, is there any way you can think this horse can at least make it kind of close enough to hit the board and maybe make a run at winning this thing?
Well, there's several positives, honestly. Getting better with every start, right? I mean, that's good. That's good. Okay, we're starting, Jared, 1 for 1. A win over this track. Okay, 2 for 2. Much better over this track than the first 2 that she tried. So there are definitely positives. I don't know. I I don't know. I think she's just a cut below. That's where I kind of landed on her, but I don't think she's going to drop way back, right? So if the pace does kind of end up being slow, she's at least in a position where she could strike earlier than the closers, I should say. So I don't absolutely hate it. And like I said, for like a tournament horse, I think this one makes sense.
I mean, and that's just it. Like, she's clearly not in this class level. She hasn't shown it yet, and I don't know if that she was obviously running a lot of big stakes races overseas. You got to think the hopes was to do that. And of course, did not run well on debut over here. And again, like you said, kind of getting better. We don't even know what she is really, and so far she's clearly not good enough. But for a race that if you're trying to get crazy, I think she makes a lot of sense in a few ways, but obviously is going to have to improve greatly. I'm not picking her. I'm not crazy enough to pick her on top, but I will be using her underneath. Number 6, Queen Goddess is my top pick. And Halterman, yours is?
I'm going to go number 3, Wakanaka.
Wakanaka. All right, guys, let's go to. That's a wrap for Gulfstream Park. Of course, we have 8 stakes races on the card. We just talked about 3 of them. Go get the wagering guide at racingdudes.com. If you want our full analysis of not just every stakes, but every race on the card. And of course, if you want the picks that Halterman and I have we work together. We throw, I throw horses like that at them. We kind of go back and forth. And we work out our tickets and we show you exactly what we'll be playing our live bankroll. I believe we had, what I believe is like a budget, or our overall bankroll was like $212, I think, for this year's. Not a lot of win bets, none, to be honest, because we feel like there's a lot of value in these races. You just got to hit 1 or 2 to make this thing go. So make sure you go get the bankroll article in our wagering guide at racingnews.com, available right now. All right, Halterman, are you? It's not just about Pegasus this weekend. We also have a Derby prep on our hands, and that, of course, is at Oaklawn Park for the Southwest Stakes. And kind of like we mentioned in the opening, this is a doozy of one too. It's not like just they're also running a prep race this weekend. No, it's the Southwest Stakes, $750,000, 3-year-olds, mile 16th, 20 points for the winner, unless it's a certain horse. 28,642 for your top 5 finishers, and that horse is your even money favorite, number 6, Arabian Night for Bob Baffert. Takes the cover off, brings the horse out to Oaklawn Park for the stakes debut, the 2-turn debut. A lot of horses making 2-turn debuts in this race. Even money on Bob Baffert at Oaklawn Park. We've seen that before, but the Southwest isn't something he's normally known for bringing horses in, especially his good ones. So Arabian Night, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting. And it's kind of, I said at the top of the show, okay, we've kind of had preps where it's like, yeah, we know this horse is decent or maybe a little above average. but we don't really think, it's like a great horse. It's like solid, kind of the barometer type of horse. We could have a great horse in this field, and that's what makes it exciting. Now we could not too, but I think at least the potential is there. Arabian Night is certainly that. I mean, ran so well on debut. The second place horse determinedly has come back to win twice, so that's a good sign. The rest of that field hasn't done much, but Arabian Night was like 14 lengths ahead of the rest of the field after determinedly, so that's the good news there. All systems go. I just feel like stretching out to 2 turns. Pedigree wise, going a mile 16th shouldn't be a problem. I think you just send him and say, catch me if you can. That's how Baffert usually wins most of these prep races at Oaklawn Park. I'll be shocked if he's not on the lead. Come get him. I don't know if they will. I really like Arabian Night in the spot. It seems like a perfect spot.
Yeah, I mean, being an owner of Corona Bolt in our fantasy league, very excited to see him here. I definitely think he's dangerous, but once the news popped that Arabian Night was coming, I thought, oh, great. Because, even if he's not good enough to win the Derby, we've seen this before. We know, I don't think there's any question that this horse is going to be the one to catch. The workouts have been phenomenal for him. And obviously, like I mentioned, you don't normally see, I don't know the stats. You don't see a lot of, off the top of my head, you don't see a lot of Bob Baffert horses come to the Southwest, especially not as good ones. Those tend to be saved
Yep.
For the Rebel and even the Arkansas Derby when we first see them at Oaklawn. So anytime you see what Bob Baffert in the Southwest, you say, well, that's kind of weird, right? I'm not super excited about that's like his B, C, D horse that he's bringing over here. Arabian Night is not that. I mean, if he's anything, I think the jury is still out. We've seen him one time, but if he's anything, he seems to be his A+ horse.
Well, but is he though? That's the question.
Well, it seems to be. We don't know who his horse is. It might be Cave Rock still.
Here's what's interesting. He runs a lot of his good horses in the San Vicente, which is Sunday. He's got Faustin in there. He's got Having a Meltdown in there. So he's got a couple one that could be pretty good in that San Vicente. He definitely runs good horses in the Rebel. I mean, we've seen that over the years. And he says Cave Rock's going there. So what is Arabian Night, right? It's a little interesting. Now, Bob Baffert's won this race 5 times in the last 15 years. That's good, right? But let's listen. I got the horses for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I want to know.
Conveyance.
Okay.
Secret Circle. Now, he was good, but he was a sprinter. Okay. Castaway.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the year that they split it in 2. Yep.
Yep. He won both of them, Secret Circle and Castaway.
Yep.
Super 99. Newgrange.
Woo. Yeah, I remember that one.
So look, if Arabian Night wins, what does it really say? He'll be the first good Baffert horse as far as a Derby contender to ever win the Southwest. I only went back 15 years. Let me see if I don't think he had one before that. So those are the ones. Those are the 5.
Well, that's where I kept going to. I was like, okay, we've been hearing all about this horse, and he's a $2.3 million horse, and we saw him in the flesh. He was amazing. But it's like we don't see this ever from him. And is he good? Is it a matter of, there's so, like, I'm with you. I think he's going to win. I know he's going to be the horse to catch in here. But I just wonder. It just seems we've even seen it go as far. And to your point, you're right. We do mostly see him in the San Vicente a lot of times. But we also sometimes, if they're really good, 2 things. One, you'll see him run him one more time in an allowance and then run him like in the San Diego Derby or something. Or, what I mean? Like he's very late to the game because he knows what he has. I don't know if he knows what he has yet with this one. And he's kind of alluded to that in some of the comments. Like, we think he's really good, but we got to see what he is here in this race. And maybe that's what it is. And to top it off, you mentioned it in the San Vicente on Sunday. He's got 5 horses in the race. He has 4. So it's not like he's running Faustin there and he's running this one here. He could have ran him in there if he wanted to. And that could have been the next step for him. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out Saturday.
It he could be very good Arabian Night, but it does kind of break. It would break a little bit of a trend that we've seen from Baffert. Now, a lot of it could just be timing. Maybe he wanted to run him in the sham and something happened here or there, and not saying it was like a major thing, but just a minor little hiccup, and he wasn't quite ready. Gave him some more work, so it's like, well, let's run him right here. This is his spot. Maybe he thought, well, maybe my other ones might not be good enough to go over there and beat a horse like Corona Bolt and Jesus Road. Maybe I better send one a little bit better to go win this one, right? There's a lot of different things you can kind of play into it, and it isn't an exact science. But what we're saying are facts. This would break a trend. Arabian Night, if he is going to end up being a really, really good horse, it's going to be very different from his other Southwest winners who simply were not Kentucky Derby, like legitimate Kentucky Derby contenders.
And I agree with you, Michael, on here, but I also want to play a little bit devil's advocate with you. There's not, because he says that Michael says there's not enough spots for him for all these horses he has, which he's got to tell me. Second to Brad Cox. We'll get to Brad Cox in a second. He needs all these spots he can get, but does he? Because he's getting 0 points for this win if he wins. Nothing changes on the Derby trail for Arabian Night or any of the 4 horses, and I guess San Vicente is not. But my point is, he doesn't get any points for this race. So what's it matter that he's in this race? I mean, I get the purse, and I mean, I'm not stupid, I know. But from a Derby standpoint, there's no points to be had. You could work your way to a bigger spot. Is kind of my argument.
Another thing I've thought about, since he has to let go of his Derby horses February 28th before March 1st or whatever. Maybe he's sending Arabian Night to this 2-turn race to see if he can get the distance. And it's like, because if he can't, well, then there's no reason to transfer him. We'll point for 1-turn races, right? That's something that's possible as well. The purse, I think, is a big, big factor as well. And, since they've raised the purse, this race seems to have gotten a little bit better since Oaklawn's raised the purse a little bit. This used to not be very good. Let's not remember, 2 years ago, Essential Quality ran in this race, and so did Jackie's Warrior before we really knew for sure that Jackie's Warrior couldn't get 2 turns, although we were skeptical. But still, he ran in it. And so those are 2 champion horses that ran in it, right? So
yeah,
I think the purse has a lot to do with how the field shapes up. Also, it's at a different time of the year than it used to be. This used to be on President's Day, and so maybe that threw off his schedule, where now it's right here this last weekend in January, and it suggests that, hey, a little bit different timing, and maybe that's why Baffert's doing it. There's a lot of reasons. It's odd if this is like a major horse, but I think I'll go back to the end of the day. I think he's going to romp. So
no.
After all of that, I'm picking Arabian Night to win.
And to that point, it's like, and I've seen it a few times in here too. It's like, okay, well, I get it, but we could try stretching them out at San Diego for whatever purse, some bullshit purse, or we can try stretching them out in the Southwest for $750,000 and see if it works there. And I mean, it's not really that hard to decide. So I think more than anything, and yeah, Michael says I think he likes to steal points from other horses too. I mean, that's probably true. I don't blame him at this point, to be honest with you. But yeah, I love Corona Bolt. We'll get to let's move on to these horses now. But I love Corona Bolt. I think he could definitely still be very good, but trying to run down Arabian Night in this situation seems damn near impossible. And someone asked in the chat earlier, I do think Corona Bolt is like, I'm shocked that Corona Bolt is 6-1 versus Jesus Road's 4-1. I think those are easily going to flip, if not even go further down for Corona Bolt. He really likes Corona Bolt. There's a lot. It seems to be the horse that he's most excited about right now for a 3-year-old for Brad Cox. But we still haven't seen this horse stretch out. And I think that's you can make the case for Jesus Road because we have. Trying to stretch out for your first time, who is also a horse that is very fast, Corona Bolt, having to chase down Arabian Night, just taking him out of his game stretching out for the first time. There's too much against them, I feel like, now that Arabian Nights in the race.
Yeah, I think with Arabian Night out, Corona Bolt could probably go out and control the pace, and then there's a big time shot. I think with him in, I think one of two things are going to happen. I think Arabian Night is kind of going to run him into the ground a bit, or I think there is a situation where they hook up, and I think they set it up for Asmussen in the 7 Red Route 1. I really like this horse at 10-1 because his path to winning makes sense. The 2 Cox horses in Arabian Night have speed. There is a chance there could be a pace duel in this race. It's not out of the question. So even if there's a pace duel and one stays on, well, Red Route 1 can just sneak up and get second at a nice number. If they all get cooked, Red Route 1 is going to come running. And guys, it ain't like he's been keeping bad company, right? I mean, he's been in some good races. He's faced the best as far as when they were 2-year-olds. Now, that's a different game now. He's faced the best ones that he could possibly face. He's been competitive. I think he's really interesting at a big number. I've got him in second.
Yeah, getting beat by the way, I'll talk a little bit more, but I would love to know what, I mean, and you might be right. Michael, wherever that, I can't find it. He may not be able to get 2 turns, and we'll find out a lot of these horses. But why do you think that? I mean, I'm curious to know why. Like, what evidence do we have that he can't get 2 turns? I'm curious to know, seriously. But I do agree that it's up against it. Red Route 1, 4th last time out to Instant Coffee, 3rd 2 or 3 back to Forte. I mean, there's certainly worse running lines. If this thing, and a horse that is as out of it and has that running style. So yeah, I agree. And it's possible 2 horses stretching out for the first time who like to go, don't know what they're going to do, how fast they're going to want to go. Will they be able to sit off? There's a lot of question marks. If that were to happen, to me, that's the saver horse. If you're going to play, to me, honestly, if you're going to play this thing, you probably are better off picking one of the 2 speed horses, whoever you like, and then playing that horse with it in terms of maybe or whatever, and hoping that, if it does fall apart, you have the horse that picks it up.
100%. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 6-7 straight exact in this. Now, look, if Arabian Night somehow is 6-5, well, that changes, but I think it's going to be like 3-5. I'll play Red Route 1 underneath and hopefully like 8-10-1. Hopefully exacta pays like $15. I think it might, because I think Corona and Jace's and even a hit show are going to take some money. So, I just think that's what you got to do. And again, Red Route 1's kind of like Instant Coffee. He's kind of the measuring sticks. Like, yeah, we know what he is. Now let's see if anybody's better than him. Last week, we didn't think anybody was better than Instant Coffee. And by the way, they weren't. Those horses behind Instant Coffee ran terrible, I thought. But this week, we think horses are better. But they got to go out and do it, right? And I just think the old steady Red Route 1 is just the one that kind of is like, he's not that good. But I think he's just that old steady horse that's going to, maybe he's a looking at Lee type,
All right. Michael, I'm gonna stop. Breed isn't Instant Coffee a Boltioro, right?
I don't
yes,
think it's
he is. I was being kind of smart ass. He is. Corona Bolt is a half brother to what's that horse's name? Proven Strategies, winner at this distance. Stakes winner at a mile on the turf at Woodmine, but can get the distance. And we just saw Boltioro win what was that, last week? 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Last week.
So I get it. Like, I'm not going to say, like, if he could definitely not get the distance. I think we were at that point in the careers, but to say breeding, I don't agree that the breeding isn't there, but we'll find out. That's why they run.
I would disagree that the breeding would be a reason. I think my biggest I wouldn't call it a red flag because I'm not really convinced that he's like, he can't get a mile and 16th. I think there's a big difference between a mile 16th and a mile and a quarter. That might be a little bit different discussion, but his sire was pretty good at a mile 16th. Anyway, but the biggest kind of, not negative, but kind of like that's weird, is we didn't stretch him out second out. Yeah. In fact, they actually cut back to 6 furlongs. That's kind of an awkward move, I thought.
The quote today I saw from Brad Cox was he's definitely a horse with talent. The question is, can he carry his speed all the way around 2 turns? I don't see why not. It looks like the perfect race to get him started for the Kentucky Derby Trail for sure. He's good. He's very fast horse. I mean, again, but I think you're at the point where you're figuring out what they are at this point, and just like Arabian Night, they might be figuring out if he can stretch out, and it's going to be tricky too because it could be one of those things that he does possibly get burned up, Corona Bolt, and we don't really know for sure if it was because he couldn't get the distance and carry his speed, or it was just because he hooked up with Arabian Night, who went 44 or 45, and just there's no way that he could have hung with that.
Last thing on breeding, it's kind of chuckle at this, but say, I don't know. I mean, Uncle Mo wasn't exactly a horse that you thought could go all day, right? Like a mile 16th was about where he's best. So I don't know if either one of them really bred to get a 1.25 miles. I think breeding is extremely overrated when it comes to distance, though. I mean, I can't even describe you how overrated I think it is. But we'll see.
Agree.
I don't think the breeding on Corona Bolt says he has no chance to win at a 1.16 miles. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, I like with breeding, to me, it's like it's such a bullshit thing, really, honestly. I think it sometimes helps. Like, it's like, oh, you really like a horse, he's really bred to run well, or maybe when they switch to turf. But it's like at this stage in the game, let him prove it on the track, and then you can figure out. I mean, all horses outrun, and there's horses that are bred to go forever. They can't run 2 turns. So
Yep.
we see that every day, it seems like. And so, anyways, all right. All that said, I mean, we're both picking Arabian Night, right?
Yeah, I can't go against Arabian Night.
Okay. So let's pretend we know what's going to happen. Arabian Night rolls, and it's like it's cruise control, impressive, nothing, nothing really to, no fears or whatever. What are they doing? What are they doing now? Because now it's like his next start theoretically would have to be with somebody else because the horse needs to start getting points, has to. What are we doing with him?
I would think Arabian Night. I mean, obviously they're going to get transferred, and I have no idea how that's going to work. But if he wins, I would think the San Felipe would be next for him. I think timing wise, that would make sense. And also, they've said Cave Rock is targeting, hopefully, the Rebel. That would mean the San Felipe would probably make the most sense for Arabian Night. And then your Robert B. Lewis runners would probably target the Santa Anita Derby or what have you, depending on how they run, right?
Where's like a horse like Faustin go?
It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe he goes to San Felipe too. The horses that have come out of the San Vicente, some of them have come to the Rebel. By the way, I don't think Cave Rock even has a work yet. So maybe he gets pushed and somebody like Faustin comes back. I don't know. It's a good question. And the biggest, Cave Rock has no works.
No works, yeah.
It's going to be hard to make the Rebel, I think. But anyway, different story for a different day. But I think kind of the thing that's tricky is where do they go? Like, what trainers are they going to go to, and how's that going to work? And that makes it hard to predict where they might run. But I think if you get this one under your belt, you're looking at the San Felipe for Arabian Night.
Definitely going to be interesting where these next month. We've been talking about it forever, but then the news came out that he has to have them transferred by the end of February. It's going to be a rat race trying to figure out where these horses go, who they end up with, if they are on the Derby Trail. In fact, what happens with all this bullshit. But for this race, and no points considering, we're on number 6, Arabian Night.
Those were 4 good races.
Well, that's why, I mean, I feel like we just started the show and everyone's still on. So obviously, people are listening, but it's just, God, those are really 4 good races. And even if you really think Arabian Night's a beast, you still have all the things we talked about kind of underneath looming. Like, can he go 2 turns? Why is he bringing them here? What is that about? What is Corona Bolt and these other Brad Cox horses? There's a lot to digest, even though it seemingly is you have an even money horse on paper.
Yeah, I mean, what if Corona Bolt sticks with him and he only gets beat a length? And then you're like, okay, that's two really good horses, or yeah, 100 different ways you could go, and it's exciting for the future. Yeah, those are just four really entertaining races, and hopefully you're just right on a few of them. That's the key, but they're good races. Man, they're good races.
Well, you mentioned it the other day and make sure make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube page to see all our previews and videos. But Halterman did the preview for this race, and I watched it, and you kind of mentioned what I was gonna get at. It's just, even though the horses that finished third and on in that race have been awful, I mean, he beat the shit out of that horse who's come back to run well.
Yep.
And to me, I hate I hate when people are like, well, he didn't beat anything in that race. Well, he beat him by 10. It's like, it's like he beat the shit out of him. So it's like, what's that really matter? And the horse that has been good afterwards, he also beat the shit out of that one too. And so I really think this horse, we were there, we saw him. I went down the paddock and looked at him, and it's like, anytime you see a $2.3 million horse in the flesh and then they run like that on the track, that's a serious horse.
If he loses, it's pretty surprising.
Yeah. I mean, even if if he loses and it's like this great battle between, and then Chrono Bolt turns into being this, or whoever it is, Jason, like you name any of the, like, then it's like one thing. But if he like goes to the front, it's got this easy lead, and then just falters, fades, that's going to be the biggest shock. If he runs his race and one of these Brad Cox horses like makes a huge run, and it's like, okay, maybe those are, like you said, maybe those are really two really good horses. Don't take too much away from them. But if he can't get the distance or fades, that'll be a little surprising.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingnews.com for our free picks and our premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing News Premium button at the menu at racingnews.com to learn more. Remember, go check out the wagering guide, now available for the entire Pegasus World Cup day at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. It is available right now, 19 pages. You get all the bankroll, who we're going to play, exactly what tickets we're going to play, analysis of all 8 stakes races from Halterman, including all the non-stakes races, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, all that included, and top 4 consensus picks from all 8 people at racingdudes.com. Everyone, Mike and Magic and Slim and Papa Dude and Dr. Miranda and Vinny, everyone is on there. And so you get the full picks for all top 4 picks for every stakes race on the card in this wagering guide. Make sure you go get your hands on that as soon as you're done with this show. Just go to Racing Dudes, go get it. All right. The Magic Mike show, they were on earlier. They did the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park. That's on Saturday. So we just went over a couple of them, 3 of those pick 5. It's a tough, I mean, they don't get easier, that sequence. So make sure you go listen to the Magic Mike show on all the same platforms, on the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, all the places we're on, they're on too. Make sure you go to our YouTube page, search for Racing Dudes or YouTube/Racing Dudes, and subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you like all our videos, and you get access to all these videos. When we go live, you get alerted, and you can watch us and interact with us like most of you have done tonight. And thank you for everybody for doing that tonight. Final thoughts, and give me your Super Bowl, the winners of each game, Super Bowl contenders here.
Well, final thoughts. If you watch our daily show, and if you're not watching it, you need to watch it. It's a great show. But anyway, we do one a race of the day every day. Papa Dude had hit 7 in a row, 7 winners in a row. So the race of the day today ran right after we got off the air. Or no, it was right. It was when we were going off the air, I think, for the Dudes Who Bet show. And he lost. He finally lost one. So he's 7 out of 8. He was so mad after this race. And he blamed Samich. He said Samich sabotaged him by picking a race that Papa Dude would not excel at. So he did thank Samich for the loss today.
Was it close?
No. His horse ran really bad today. And right after, he's like, damn, Samich, he picked that hard one. He knew I wouldn't get it. I said, what would be his motivation to have you lose? Like, it's good for the show that you keep winning. He's like, I don't know, but he did it on purpose. So Tune in tomorrow. Papa Dude was scathing mad.
That yeah, Papa Dude is he's been hot. So definitely, let's see, Samich 2 should have won.
Yeah.
By the way, everyone make sure if you haven't already, if you don't know about it, give a huge congratulations to our boy Samich, who last weekend and Samich, you put the message on there what the actual name of that tournament was, but it was on horse tourneys. It's 2-day thing at the with was it Gulfstream and Santa Anita, right?
Yeah, Flow Cow.
Yeah, and the dude was awful day one until the end and hit 2 bombs at Santa Anita and got him kind of in the running and just went absolutely nuts the next day. And the funny part of that story is we didn't know this at the time, but like he was busy and he had to like just put it's a live tournament, but he was busy. He had to put his picks in and go do stuff with the family or whatever. I'm guessing the dude just went nuts. His picks got just lit up, including winning the last race, which when the horse went in the gate would have been enough to win the damn thing, but the horse got bet down. Still damn near win the thing. Took home, I think it was like $73,000. So well done, Mike Samich. That was impressive.
Yeah, a very, very impressive run. And another thing, if the horse the horse got second in that race, just barely got up. If not, Samich wins it too, because that place money was enough for that top guy to just barely stay ahead of him. I think by $3 or so. So incredible job. Not surprised, but an incredible job. And by the way, let's give a shout out to Dr. Tang. He got 8th in the tournament and then won just a little short of $12,000. So a little minor shout out there compared to Samich, but still a pat on the back to Mr. Tang as well.
Yeah, Dr. Tang, you suck, man. What are you doing? 8th. Come on. Yeah, there you go. Turned okay. Turned into a pick and pray for him, and that makes the story even better because those live ones, and and Samich knows how to play them better than anybody. It's like when those live ones, and you're down, you make a run. And Samich is definitely there's all these guys. I'm not going to name names, but all these guys in these tournaments who, when they see where they're at in the leaderboard, and if I just stay here in 10th or 15th, I can cash in. It's okay. Samich is like, fuck that. He goes for broke. He goes to try to win the thing every time, even if it means he gets screwed. And he tried to do that thing, and it was an impressive run. And the fact that he took that home. And by the way, like I saw a comment earlier, if you are at Gulfstream Park, he is definitely buying. Okay, not Racing Dude's money, his money, because he just won $73,000. So if you see him, just go, hey. Congrats on that'll be the code. Like, congrats on that tournament, and he'll go. You won't even say anything. He'll just go and what do you want? That's all you got to do.
Yep. You don't even have to say hi or introduce yourself. Just go up and give him the order, and he'll go get it for you. He said he'd be happy to.
There you go. Magic. Yeah, you missed it. We did. Well, it was more like a just happy birthday. It wasn't like a
shout out.
Full on singing, But no one wants to hear me sing. I did sing for him earlier, but
you wanted picks for the games, right?
Yeah, I want picks.
Eagles, Bengals. That's who I went with.
I know. That's like I told you the other day. That's the most likely scenario. Most probable scenario: Eagles, Bengals. I think the Eagles showed me last week. Not that they haven't been good all year, but it's like, okay, they're really good. They're really good. They're gonna be tough to beat. So I like Eagles out of the NFC, and it's gonna be. This game is gonna be. I may not be around next week, to be honest with you. It may take it out of me, and I've seen a lot of doozies, Super Bowls, and I've been a fan my whole life, so I've seen them all. But this one, this game, I feel like it's got the makings of being brutal to watch and very close, back and forth, competitive. Obviously, the Bengals have our number, winning the last 3 against us. So I don't know. It's going to be a great game. I will say this. There are certain players, certain teams, but certain players especially, I would not necessarily give bulletin material to. And Mahomes is definitely one of those guys. So they need to be careful with what they're doing because I've heard there's a lot of talk going on. And I know Mahomes is going to enjoy being the, quote unquote, the underdog here. So we'll see.
So do you want me to give you the key to the game? And this is it. It's all going to come down to one thing.
Defense.
Are you ready?
Go.
All the talk, all the Mahomes stuff, forget it. He's going to get his. You're not going to stop him. I don't care. Bengals offensive line versus Chiefs defensive front. That's all it's going to come down to.
I
If
agree.
they protect Burrow, the Chiefs are losing. If they
Yep.
get to Burrow, the Chiefs are winning. That's the matchup. That's all it comes down to. The Bills are trash. Their defense was trash after all the injuries. They couldn't expose the problems. The Chiefs can expose them. Their front is good. A lot of people don't realize because the Chiefs defense sucks. Not the front. The front is really good. It's when you protect the quarterback, they can't cover. That's the key to the game right there. Can they
Right.
get to him?
When they send the rush, they can't. No one can do anything about it. I mean, when it gets through, but and you look back at even not counting like Chiefs games, like when have the Bengals struggled the most as well? It's when he was getting pressured all the time.
Yep.
Listen, they've got definitely two, maybe three wide receiver ones on the Bengals. Okay,
Yep.
when he's got time, they're gonna get open like every time, right?
Yep.
And we saw it against the Bills. You knew from jump this thing's in trouble.
It's over. Yep.
Because they had time, and he's just firing them out of there. And that offensive line, as shambles as it is, held up against the Bills.
That's the thing, though. People went nuts about those offensive line injuries, but they didn't stop to analyze. It's the Bills. They're not any good. Look what they've done the last 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. And that was the easiest bet you could ever cash because it's like, yeah, they've got injuries, but they have nobody that can expose those injuries. The Chiefs have got a great front. So, I mean, they are going to give the Bengals a lot more problems. I really believe that. But at the end of the day, I just think the Bengals have got the playmakers to beat the Chiefs. To beat the Chiefs, you're going to have to match them. I think they'll protect him well enough to match him and be able to beat him.
They've got a more well-rounded team, no doubt about it. I'm a huge Chiefs fan, you know this, but I'm also a realist, and I understand. I mean, it's like, yeah, we have Kelsey, he's elite. Mahomes, elite. We've got those matchups. Maybe with the ankle injury, it's a little more even. But they're just more well-rounded everywhere around. So they're going to need to, if Chiefs can press,
that's it.
Yep.
That's the game. Because listen, Mahomes is going to end. They're going to score. I'm sorry, you're not going to beat them like 17-14. Like the Chiefs are getting into the high 20s, low 30s, 100%. This right here is the key.
And as someone that's been to Arrowhead all my life, and millions of games, well, not millions, but when that pass rush gets going, and the crowd is erupting, that place is tough.
Yeah,
to play.
Yep.
The best quarterbacks struggle whenever the pass rush is going and everyone's into it, and you're creating sacks and turnovers and strip sacks and whatever it is. Place will go. It's nuts.
Yep.
It only gets louder and louder. So that's the key. You got to be able to get in. Hey, you know what? And I saw it earlier. Like we're talking a little bit back, after the game, and Frank Clark's an idiot, but he's like, he talks. He's like, hey, it doesn't matter who we play. I'm gonna bring it. You better bring it, Frank. All right, Frank and Jones obviously has been a beast, but got to get the pass rush going, and they're gonna try to get the ball out quick. You know that. So it'll be a hell of a game. Evening game. It's gonna be cold at Arrowhead. It's no matter what, it's gonna be. And by the way, what did they won? The Bengals, like 11 in a row now. I think
they won 8. Isn't it 8?
I thought it was more than that.
I'll look it up here.
Whatever it is, maybe it's 11 if they were to win it all. I don't remember. But the point is, if they were to win the Super Bowl, like that's an elite run and an elite team. And I think even as much as I love my Chiefs and Mahomes, and I still think he's the best, but they go and make that run and run through the Bill had to beat the Bills and have to beat the Chiefs and then have to beat the Eagles or whoever it is. I mean, they're in the conversation, definitely, if not above the Chiefs at the time after the Super Bowl win. You know what I mean? Because they'll prove 4 times to beat the Chiefs and win the Super Bowl now. And you got Burrow, and it's like, so to do that, it'll be very impressive feat.
Yeah, I looked it up. They've won 10 in a row. This would be 11.
So it'll be, well, like Kevin said, you don't, say 11 and be given. Well, I'm not. I'm not what's his name? Skip, not Skip. So I don't say just bullshit and let it run. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, yeah. I'm not gonna make I don't know. You and I both picked Chiefs 49ers at the beginning of the season, and I at least am applauding the fact that both those are very legit chances at this point. So, well done, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Next year Super Bowl odds from our good friend Mike Somich. Bengals 10-1, Bills 5.5-1. What are the Chiefs, Michael? Out of that,
The Bills are. It's crazy how overvalued that team is. It's
who?
crazy. The
Who?
Bills.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I'll go even further. It's crazy how overvalued Josh Allen is.
Okay. The one thing I'll say about Josh Allen, there's something wrong with that guy injury wise. There has to be because he was playing well, and in the last 8 games, he was not good,
Mm.
not good. But still, yes, I agree.
But I don't have it in front of me, but I was looking at some stats and comparisons, and it's like everyone wants to every year. It feels like the Bills are the favorite at the beginning of the year. The Bills are the favorite, and Josh
Mhm.
Allen's the favorite for the MVP, and he's so elite. And if you like Mahomes, you gotta love Josh Allen. But you look at the numbers; it's not even close. Not to mention none of the accolades, none of the MVPs, none of the passing records, whatever. Like there's nothing there, you
No.
know. And so it's just like at the end of the day, if if you're the Bills, well, you're trying to get to the Super Bowl, and I, you know, I don't know how they haven't been able to push through yet. Is the thing.
Well, they lost some heartbreakers for sure, but this year it really is. He got hurt, and they lost a lot of guys on defense. And really, the first like 6, 8 weeks of the season, they looked like the team to beat. And then once all that happened, if you watched the games, you knew they weren't very good.
Mm.
Period.
I'll say this though, I fucking love watching Josh Allen play football.
Yeah.
I love watching him play. The way he throws the ball, like he can hit a guy 70 yards like that. Then he'll put his shoulder down. He'll truck over a linebacker and get in the end zone. That dude is tough.
Yep.
He's fun to watch. He's a good football player. Don't get me wrong. I just think when you start comparing him to like Mahomes, and honestly, I'd rather have Burrow than Josh Allen. Not even close.
Yep.
I just think he gets a little bit overrated until
And
he's kind of proven it. So
I will say this: if you're a quarterback and you're injured, stay out because this is what happens. You get hurt, you're not quite as good, everybody piles on you, you lose confidence. How many times have we seen this happen with all kinds of different guys? If you are hurt, stay out. Do
unless you're
not
Patrick,
play injured.
unless you're Patrick Mahomes, and clearly you have some sort of weird superhuman strength. That dude, he's not even limping.
No.
He did a presser. He literally hopped off the stage, like just nothing wrapped. Says he feels good. Now, obviously, a lot of that's talk. He'll be limited somewhat, I'm sure. But the dude looked like it straight up broke in that game.
Yep. Oh, I thought he was done. I don't know how he's walking like that. If it truly is a high ankle sprain, I mean we've seen guys miss multiple weeks. Those are tough to come back from. He seems fine. We'll see.
And I don't know if it's a little song and dance trying to make the Bengals feel like they're not to change their game plan any, and I don't know. But
how
yeah,
song and dance not limping?
I don't know. Maybe he's cyborg or something. He's not real. I don't think he's human. Is what I think. So
He played that second half. It's like that what a heroic game, but you could tell that was bothering the shit out of him.
Curtis, trust me, he got the love from me. That 98-yard drive won the game for them.
That won the game. Yeah.
Even though it was early in the game, they don't do that, or it creates a turnover there, or they go 3 and out and punt it, and all of a sudden they're in good field position. The whole game could have flipped.
It won the game. It won the game for him. Yes.
It was incredible.
Without any doubt. Like I said, if you go 3 and out, you're punting from your end zone. You're giving Jacksonville the ball, a great field position. You let them go down and score. The whole game changes. But he came in and made plays. Now, it's that getting Mahomes back was the other big factor, obviously. But that was a huge drive. Huge drive.
Longest drive, playoff scoring drive in Chiefs history. And it was Chad Henne. And he also got through his first playoff touchdown pass, and Kelsey threw it about 30 rows into the into the crowd. So
yeah. Well, there's the other factor. That's
it helps. The guy had 14 catches. So
I mean, he is. I don't even. There's no words. He's the best tight end to ever play. He's incredible, and that'll help a lot in this game as well. No matter who the quarterback is.
Man, if it'd be great content if we had a camera like Barstool does with like watching the game. Like if you had watched me watch this game, it's gonna be.
If we only had access to StreamYard and a live feeds. If you want to do that, we can set it up I think it'll take about a minute. We can.
I don't know that I want to do it, to be honest. I'm not sure people would like me afterwards. I'm a different person during these games, so
they would like you if they're rooting for the Chiefs.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Now,
my brother-in-law is a Bengals fan, as you know, and I might be watching it with him. So
now that would be amazing content. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both games. I made the picks, and it's like, if this goes the other way, there's no surprise whatsoever.
Well, aside from my fanhood, which obviously I want to see him in the Super Bowl, from a personal, or from just a fan of football, there's no loss in what happens on Sunday.
It's going to be a great Super Bowl, no matter what happens. Yeah.
The four best teams made the four final spots in the playoffs.
Yep.
They're all elite, and it's just going to be a hell of a. It might be a fist fight, Davey. Honestly, so we'll see. He's already talking shit, so I said, "Hey, you win a Super Bowl, we'll talk. We'll see." I can't handle it.
I don't think you guys should be watching the game together, but that's just me.
And by the way, my issue with him, we get along fine, but my issue with him being the Bengals fan is this guy. Everyone, I don't even need to say it, but I will say it. Like, this guy was a Bengals fan. Then, I don't know, pre-Burrow, maybe 7 years ago or so, just stopped, went to the Colts, then went to the Texans. He liked Watson, so he went to the Texans, which is funny in itself, right? And then Burrow came along, started winning. And lo and behold, he's back to being a huge Bengals fan. I have an issue with that, okay?
I do too.
I have a huge issue with that. Us, you as an OU guy, me as I literally since I was born, I was a Chiefs fan. I've seen all the horror. I've seen it all. You live through the bad times, you enjoy the good times. So it's like, dude, I have a hard time with that.
I have a major problem with that. I'm with you. No, right, I don't like that at all. That's a front runner.
Huh?
That's a front runner. I don't like that. You have no idea.
Oh, that's a funny comment, Kevin.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, I know, right?
We'll leave it at that.
Part of me doesn't want to dig. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't know if you want to find out what you're going to find out at the end. So
yeah, we know enough.
All right, guys. Listen, we're approaching 2-hour show here, so I think it's time to wrap her up. But hey, it's been great, everybody. Huge weekend. I feel like we're all going to be changed people when we see each other next. Everyone, so much is going to have happened. The Pegasus, all that unfolded. What happens in the Southwest? Who's going to the Super Bowl? So much to talk next week. All of our content at Racing Dudes, whether it be sports or horse racing, lots to talk about, Halterman. Lots to talk about.
It's going to be content for weeks now. It's all heating up.
It's all heating up. All right, guys. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Remember, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck in the Pegasus. Good luck in the Southwest. Good luck in these conference championships to everybody that's watching. Thanks, guys. See you guys next time.